Awesome, guys. So my name is Tim, co-founder and managing partner here at More Technologies. If you're not familiar, we got our cat Jane, one of our 4 deployed engineers here, and our GMB desk, Trevin Koehn on the podcast here, flew in from Kansas this morning, come visit the team here. So wanted to just jump into a quick conversation as far as what we've been doing with you and your team at Meridian Cattle on the CattleLogic software. So want to go ahead, just give a quick introduction, and then we'll jump into from there.
Okay, yeah, I'm Trevin Koehn, and I work with my dad. We have a family operated and owned feedlot operation in central Kansas, and we got tired of tracking all our cattle on spreadsheets and pen and paper, and so we decided to try to build something to make that process a little easier.
Yeah, it was a fun project, right? So also I'm working from Ready Cattle Hat. They just gave me a few hours ago, but I think when we started the project, we talked about the main bottlenecks were, especially like you sent us over a lot of Excel sheets first, right? Where you were talking about like allocations and like per head, how much you make. So for per head just means like each cow, right? So how much like how do you track the pounds, the death loss percentage? It's all done through Excel sheets, and you actually go on an even CME to buy and sell cattle futures, correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. With all the moving parts and everything of the business, if you don't have a way to keep track of everything in a central location, and you got some here and some there, and all of a sudden it comes time to sell cattle, and you don't know what you need to break even on the cattle. You don't know what to price your cattle at. You can make a very costly mistake very easily.
Yeah, you're talking a bit earlier, like what the level of variance is and how that's changed over the last couple of years. How's that been looking like on your side?
Yeah, with the short supply of cattle in the United States now, markets are very volatile and margins are probably thinner in relationship to how many dollars you're spending to buy an animal. So it makes keeping track of all your stuff that much more important.
Do most people in the industry know when you're running even like I mean, your operation is decently big. You said 3,000 cattle, right? But when you have like 500 or even 1,000 cattle, how do people know how much they pay? Do they just estimate saying that, hey, like I'm paid $1,000 per head, but now I'm selling for $2,000 per head? They might think they're making profit. Does that happen often, or
Yeah, I think there's some people that probably don't have any idea where they're at and they just kind of fly by the seat of their pants per se, and it somehow maybe works, hopefully. Some people it doesn't and they lose their farms. I think some people do, keep track of it, pen and paper and Excel sheets, and try to do their best with it. But like I say, whenever you get tracking stuff at different places and you can't enter expenses when you deliver the feed, when you treat an animal, the chances of you getting everything when you get inside, when you get to your pickup and got a piece of note paper, and that actually gets entered into a spreadsheet eventually is very small. That I mean, there's margin. There's a lot of margin for error there.
because you also have to keep track of, and one of the things that caught me by surprise was we're even tracking to the Mary milliliters how many medicines you're using. Right. Yeah. It's a very specific section in CattleLogic for us to track Draxin and all these different medicines you're using for different cases. We have like a medical pen that we've built in there where you specifically have lots and pens and you allocate cattle to the medical pen so you can keep track of those expenses. Right. We also have like graphs showing how much you're feeding the cattle per day, right?
Right.
It was doing is there any software or anything that existed before where you could track it, or was it just all pen and paper once again?
There's a few systems out there that are, but most of them are targeting, really large operations where you've got full office staff that sit in front of a computer and print stuff every day. And it's still kind of the same scenario. Either you got to have a full blown laptop with you all the time to enter stuff in, and that's not very feasible for, smaller operation. But yeah, interesting note on that, which kind of for treating cattle, talking about tracking that down to the milliliter or the cc. Um, before we kind of just had an estimate, this is about how much an animal gets. Well, now we've got estimated weights put in there. We have been very surprised on our operation on how much that varies. Different animals get a different amount of medicine based on bigger animals or smaller, where before we thought, they're about the same size. They all about get the same, but it can be, you might give one animal 25 cc or milliliter of product, and you might give another one 45 just because it's a bigger animal, because it's dosed on body weight. And, when you're just looking at them with your eye, you think, well, yeah, it's maybe a little liver. It's not that big a deal.
One size fits all, but
Yeah.
because
So if you got a sick animal and you're not giving them enough medicine, the chances of it getting better and getting over that respiratory pneumonia isn't very good if you're not giving them enough medicine, so
that's something you discovered in the last couple months.
yeah.
Using the allocation.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about that, and we switched your strike keys with the payments processor from testing to live, right? And you know that your dad sent you a message saying he can't use the application, but that's because it was behind a paywall. Of course, we built you a demo line beforehand, but it seems like the operations become your day-to-day life, right? You and all your employees are using it.
Yeah, it's you were getting along before without it, and you thought you were doing the best you could, and then you get something that is all inclusive and you can use it every day in the field, and all of a sudden you can't log into it. Your world kind of stops. So yeah, you don't really think about it, but once you have it, then you feel like you can't live without it.
Yeah. And I was trying to understand a little bit earlier, like, how do you go about quantifying the value that it provides, right? And you had mentioned that, previously there is, like you said, things that you weren't even taking note of, where now using the application, it's like, you definitely wouldn't have those before, right? What was the example you mentioned? Or
Yeah, so I was auditing it, kind of just make sure everything's right on it. So I've been keeping track of everything in CattleLogic in the app. We have been for a little over a month now, and I've also been using my old system of record keeping as well alongside it, just to kind of compare it to see the difference. And in like a 2-week billing period on roughly 13 or 1400 head, I had missed about $400 worth of expenses, and that's just money I will lost. And
CattleLogic captured.
right, and because it catches, you get everything entered when you do the task. Whenever you put a pound of feed in the bunk, it is billed to that lot. When you treat an animal with some medicine, it is billed to that lot. If you have any miscellaneous expense happen, it is billed to that lot that moment, and it's done. You don't ever have to touch it again.
And we have invoices per lot
Right.
that we can also send over to people that are participating half and half in your operations.
Right.
I said that other people sometimes like participate in those operations. Another interesting thing is, as you said, right, like people have back office operations where you need like a laptop. One of the reasons why you wanted a mobile app was because most of your workers that are actually in the field looking at the cattle, doing the information, first they should be able to capture videos and information of that cattle. And also we have an offline component. So if the internet connection goes off, especially in the middle of like a ranch, you should still be able to
Right.
put in the data when you have internet connection and all syncs with the cloud.
Right.
So
Yeah, another very valuable point, talking to some potential clients that they've been very enthused about, is the part of being able to give, if you're running a custom feeding operation and feeding cattle for other people, that you can give that customer specific logging information to where they can see what is going on with their cattle in real time. And people have been very enthused about that feature. So
yeah, how are they typically managing that right now? Just calling their
yeah, multiple calls, things happen, don't know, do I need to tell the client about this? Do I not? How big a deal is this? And with this, the client will be able to watch everything happen in real time.
Yeah.
And yeah, either that, they call them up, or they get an invoice and they're like, hey, what happened here? What's going on? Well, now they'll be able to log into the app and they'll be able to see everything that went on. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, likewise. I think one thing that was exciting to me, at least in our like earlier conversations, was I think your kind of roadmap from a development standpoint was let's go ahead and build this for Meridian first, right? Make sure it works for your use case, and then from there, once it all the cakes are hired out, then go ahead and start to release that to the broader market. I think that's a smart strategy because of how large of a problem this solves for your own business. But then from there, like you're saying, other companies or other operations probably have a very similar set of problems. So I'm curious, like you just mentioned one of the benefits. What are some other things that some potential clients or people on your wait list are saying that they're excited about using the application to do?
Mainly just that part about the mobile application. I don't know that there's another cattle management software that's packaged into a mobile application. There's web applications out there, and yes, you can access them on your phone, but it is not geared towards that environment where you just, okay, I fed these cattle, I'm gonna pull my phone out, I'm gonna enter it. Okay, 10 minutes later, I feed this other pen, I'm gonna whip out my phone. Like, it's not needed. And they're clumsy. Yes, to operating to pull a magnificent report on a computer, but the most important part is if you're gonna have a piece of software that is gonna track all these things and it's gonna make a report, in order for that report to be of any value, you have to get the inputs put in there. And if it's not set up to do it in a user-friendly manner, you're going to say, well, I'll enter that in a little bit. Then you forget.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. Obviously, I think the first time you got connected was maybe last summer, like June or July, August, maybe of last summer.
Yeah.
I always like to. I know the answer to this, but just people watching at home, like, how did you connect with us? How did you find us? What was the process like having those initial conversations?
I don't even know. I've had this idea to build this application for a couple of years. We've built a couple other very simple little just tracking calculators and things. And I've always wanted to expand that and make it a complete system. And I guess different research, you guys started showing up in Facebook advertisements, and your values and things you promoted about your company really stood out to me, and I reached out, and it's been good ever since.
Yeah.
So
What are some of the things, obviously working closely with Arcash, like what are some of the things just from a software development standpoint that you maybe had some original ideas with, or you learn that, hey, it's just how it works? Like what are some things you just learned in the process that were interesting?
oh, I don't know. I'll have to think about that maybe a little bit.
I know you said that you started putting everybody on Slack. That was an interesting thing. We've had so many conversations at all hours. I think we have been more to our best to respond to our clients within at least an hour. I've never seen a Slack message that's gone missing or more than an hour between you and I, right? Unless it's like something trivial.
Right.
Most of the stuff, we've responded within an hour, and the number of calls we've had at like sometimes 9 p.m. at night, or 8 a.m. in the morning.
Right. A lot of late evenings out of trying to have our things out and get this figured out.
Oh yeah, we try and like code in real time. I know it.
Yeah, that was really cool. Like the one time we were having some problems just figuring something out, and you were like coding on your computer, and it was like popping up, and yes, right, okay, no, we got to train this, and you mentioned you out of it, got it.
Yeah, I think it was a 3-hour session. It was you, your dad, and me.
Yeah,
And I share my screen, or I think you were sharing your screen. We're going through the hour.
right.
Yeah, I have this screen share on my own, and I'm coding in real time. So you're telling me, hey, this doesn't work. I just write code for it in real time, and I'm like, hey, can you refresh? I don't even think you refresh. It just it popped up in the next 2 minutes, right?
Right.
So yeah, there's been a lot of interesting moments that we had over there, but that's part of what we do here at Melmore in terms of like pair coding, just finishing up fast. So
Yeah, no, it's super important. I'm curious as well, like obviously you being, kind of the brains behind this operation here. What are some of the things from a technology standpoint that were interesting to work on?
So, we talk about like good coding practices and like coming up with a interesting architecture that's scalable. I definitely think coming in, I thought CattleLogic was not as complicated until, I went back and forth and we had like that Figma make mockup, and we're trying to convert that into a full application. So the biggest thing was how intertwined each single component is, because we have a feature for lots, and then we have feeding in there as well. So you have to feed every, like, the statistics, as Trevin mentioned, are calculated per lot, right? So making sure that feeds and lots are related, but then lots are related to invoices because, you have to build a full P&L report for what's miscellaneous, what's this, how much do you pay for medicines because that goes into a medical pen. Point being, there's so many moving parts. I actually had to use my full depth of distributed system to computer systems to make that complex graph. Another thing on top of that was I've built offline architectures before. Offline is typically, and if you pull out your Apple app right now or iPhone, most things that work offline are super simple, like going through photos, and that's pretty much it. In CattleLogic, we are able to enter feeds. We are able to enter live information and store that. So building that offline architecture and at the same time understanding real world problems, right? I think we talked about tags, right? Like those tags, how much do they cost you?
They're anywhere from 50 cents to $1 an animal.
Right. And what was the problem you were facing with those tags?
Well, some people, or a lot of times, maybe some people go run their tag from 1 to 500 and then start over at 1. Or you maybe run them from 100 to 980 because you don't want to run past 1,000, or you run to 999 and you start over at 1. We got a feature in the application that tracks all your health on animals. Okay, we track the cattle at a lot level, right? Then we've got all these different groups that we purchased within the lot. So if we have a healthy van where a bunch of animals get sick, we can pinpoint which group was bought out of that lot based on what year tag got put in there. So if you got a lot of cattle that, we went from tag number 875 to number 15, we went to 980, we started over at 1. Instead of just an infinite line, we recirculate that and being able to track that. So
yeah, we had to, from a technical perspective, build a whole queue for it. Trevin reached out to me like, I think it was a month and a half ago, and we're like, all right, first building the architecture in an existing deployed application. I think we were like a week from launch to the app stores, and most of the architecture is built. So building a flexible enough architecture where we can add this tag tracking feature, building that queue for it, and then deploying to the app stores. That's also been an interesting process because we got accepted into the Play Store within 2 days, but App Store took us like 3 weeks to keep going back and forth, and they kept pinpointing the same things. One of the other things that was super cool that I don't think we talk about much, but is the coolest part of the application for me is we connect to CME. So we just went to a walk to CME as well, but we get prices at an 8-hour delay and we're charged per usage. So it can get really expensive really fast if we're not making sure that we're optimally using those prices. So one of the things we did, the application, was pull the prices once every night and then store them in a cache in a database so that we're not at current cost. And how much do you say you were last billed? Like
it's a penny.
Like a penny. So, and some people, you said we're getting billed what, $15,000?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's talking about the CME. That's one feature of it that I'm very enthused and we very actively use was the break-even calculators, where it is, I guess you'd almost say we kind of built an algorithm of, we take what the futures, the CME futures is, here, put an estimate month, we're going to sell cattle into this month, and you back figure all your expenses off of that, and then it spits out and says, look, this is what you can pay for cattle today. And that's a tool we very actively use on daily basis almost. Yeah. So
yeah, that's exciting stuff. It's nice technology. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a project that our team takes a lot of pride in, and glad you come to the office and check out kind of the operations behind the scenes here. I know our creative time review you a tour of like his sub agent setup and kind of how we're
I was so excited. I've been waiting for this visit for a long time. So,
well, yeah, I've had a lot of fun.
Well, curious, like obviously now we're at a point in the application where we guys are using it internally and it's seen some really great results. What's kind of the outlook going forward? Maybe next 12 or 24 months, if you can project that far out. What is the things you're looking like from a roadmap perspective?
Well, I've got probably 6 or 7 people that are I've given demo to, and they've got a account set up they've been kind of playing with. And once their cattle come off grass and they put cattle back in the feedlot coming this fall, they're all enthused to try it. And I'm thinking get 6 or 7, 8, 9, 10 people on it and kind of get some feedback from. I know we love it as ourselves. We built it. It's tailored to our workflows and how we do things. I think it will translate over to other operations, and so far I've heard nothing but positive feedback. That get a couple people using it, get some feedback from them. If they love it and everything is good, we'll start monetizing it and see how many people we can get on the platform.